Absolutely. The government should make a law. So you can map this whole dialogue tree out and predict its next outcome. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the answer to your question is that both women and men can get STDs and suffer the consequences. However, men, at least thank God, not that I know of, can get pregnant, but I'll wait, I won't hold my breath on that either. But the fact is, the reason that abortion is a woman's health issue, or pregnancy is because it is not just a means of ending a pregnancy, because prior.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go real quick, so PRP. So can you guys run this for a little bit?
Yeah, I was always happy, like, the fact that Elon posts about his political posts. It kind of breaks down that barrier of having a taboo, right? Like, CEOs shouldn't speak about any political views or what they align with. Um, but yeah, it breaks that barrier and it's allowing for conversations to happen rather than letting these issues kind of escalate and continue to be so divisive and so polarizing in society. Because now people are talking, yes, they're getting heated, but hopefully as the time goes on, this kind of calms down. People might start aligning more towards the middle. Did you guys see the letter that the EU issued?
to that ethic? Because
So
so many of
the letter that was issued to Elon, it says they claim this conversation could generate detrimental effects on civil discourse and public security and can lead to public unrest in the EU. So it looks like they have a huge issue with the Trump and Elon space.
Can you link it in the comments?
Yeah, I saw it through Mario's post, Mario Marvel.
Yeah, that's to be expected. I mean, there will be backlash.
I think it'd be wild, this thing escalates or continues to escalate, and they try to, censor X from the country as a whole, the same way Brazil or Venezuela tried.
Well, I mean, there are only 4% of X users in UK, and then if UK wants to isolate themselves from free speech platform, then perhaps they can use VPN. Oh wow, it's actually the entire EU.
Like Europe, not just the UK.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah, but it states illegal content on X. It doesn't specify what it actually means, which could be attributed to ineffectiveness of the way which X applies to relevant provisioning of the DSA, may be relevant to context of the ongoing proceedings and the overall assessment of X compliance with EU law. That's quite general terminology. Yeah, I think they're concerned that there could be like negative content. I mean, illegal content. So it's just they just worried about that, and I think that it's it just they're basically asking to be cautious, but I don't see any ultimatum in the letter. Because the situation in UK is so fragile, they just don't want any offensive content essentially being distributed, which is normal. Mario is just trying to get like it reads like an attention clickbait post. EU in full panic mode. I mean, it's just a letter to watch for hateful content, which is regulated by the local laws, and X conforms to the laws within each country. So I don't see it as a big issue.
I think the worry or the concern was that Elon's post with Europe is heading towards civil war was being seen as trying to incite hate towards a specific group of people or type of incite violence, whichever way they want to try and form it.
Yeah, it's a subject to interpretation.
mic check, mic check. Here we fucking go, I'm back.
Yeah.
How long was there dead silence for in this space, anyways?
Not overly long. There was some snippets here and there.
Cool. Alright, everything's back and forth, so back. Let's have a show. Let's do this. There might be a chance I may join a space intermittently as well, because Alex Jones is going to be in a space, and I may be there. So that's something that may happen again. Remember when we had this little conversation yesterday, and we said, hey man, it would be funny if there was another incident where, Alex Jones were, we would have another conversation with Alex Jones. But yeah, that's coming. So it could be, another little Alex Jones thing that we might be doing, which could be fun. Yeah, so interesting stuff. The memes, of course, have been flourishing, as we all can see, by Elon's response to the European Union here, Theory Breton. With great audience comes greater responsibility, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Honestly, I know it's often a bit of a buzzword that people like to say. It's kind of a buzzword when people refer to what Elon is doing and what this platform is doing, as in that it protects free speech and that the goal of it is to protect free speech. But really, this is not a buzzword. This is the actual goal itself, and this is actually what's happening. Because if there are certain entities that are coming after, that freedom right now, this way, as you can literally see, they're trying to come after that freedom and take it from you, take it from all of us. You can really tell that that's exactly what is happening, right? There is an actual fight for free speech, and there are two sides of this war. Those who want you to have it, and those who don't want you to have it, right? And so, I always find it's interesting when people say it's an overused buzzword. Honestly, it's not overused yet, because it still has a lot of merit to it, right? So until things like this no longer occur, then I think we can agree that it's overused. But at the moment, I don't think it's used enough. There's not enough emphasis that's given around this, right? But imagine such a drive to try to somehow get. I don't believe this, man. It's just crazy. And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, because the European Union itself and the people within it, I always find it quite fascinating. I always liked the organization and the potential good that it could do. But it really is unfortunate what they're doing now. The overregulation and the damage that they could cause. So I always find that to be very unfortunate. As opposed to doing the thing that I'd hoped they'd always do, right?
Yeah. Well, that letter, if you read it, it seemed to me more like, they don't want the hateful content.
Well, who defines hate? Who defines hate? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? We had this issue before, who defines hate? Anything could be hatred, right? I think, honestly, look, if you're not mobilizing potentially entire groups of people against an individual online who is defenseless, there's probably something that you should do about that. There should probably be some consequences to you trying to harm a business, for instance. But I mean, defining something that's like hatred in this sense, when you're clearly just reporting on the facts of something happening in a particular country, then that is something. Or what if you're voicing your opinion? At what point do you actually no longer have the option to voice your opinion? So, for instance, if you accrue a massive amount of influence, in the case of Elon Musk, right, and you were to voice your opinions publicly about a particular thing, you can now no longer do so, because the very impact of you doing this can cause a mobilization of some sort, right? So you may as well just say nothing, which is the actual idea of this, is to basically say, please shut the fuck up. That is essentially what this letter means. Right? It's a sophisticated, drawn-out way of saying, please stop talking. That's literally what it is. That's all that this fucking letter is. And there's something interesting that the Omnila rule has said to me, and this is a person who's quite far on the left, but I kind of respect him for what he said there, which is that he doesn't think that, you shouldn't saying something on the internet merits, like I say, for instance, you say something on the internet that could be interpreted a certain way. You shouldn't lose your job over that, for instance. Something like that should get cancelled online. It doesn't matter what side it is on. So I think that was kind of interesting, kind of insinuated towards that once we had a communication, which I thought was really cool, and which I kind of, admired in a sense. So even within that framework, I think it's important that you at least have the freedom to offend one another, and I think you should be able to offend one another. Otherwise, you can end up like various other people, such as the example of Dan O'Dowd, where you sit in a space with a team of lawyers behind your microphone, whispering into your ear. As soon as like somebody says anything that's truly in your direction, that guy just says, "Libel, libel!" Fucking unbelievable pussy. Like that's not where it should go. That's like the opposite. This is like an example. That's an example of where it shouldn't go. And like I think an example of where it should go is where just basically you get to chew each other out with just merits alone. And that's perfectly fine, and it's awesome. That's great. And I think it should continue to happen. And there should be more of it as well. So by all means, man, I don't really care. But it's important to have freedom. And especially freedom of speech on this platform for everyone who uses it.
Yeah, and X conforms with the regional laws, so it doesn't, there is content moderation in that regard. So yeah, it conforms to the laws where it operates.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is fine. Like, it's honestly fine. But seriously, what's the problem with the EU, man? And then, of course, you have something which I thought was quite a decent overstep. Like, this is one way to make an entire country angry at you, to say, hey, man, if you also post it in your own country, then we will come and extradite your ass. Literally. That is crazy. Like, that is really crazy.
Yeah,
that is even something that the US may want to kind of like look at and do something about, because this is an actual threat to your fucking citizens, right? We probably want to look into that and say, is this okay? Like, what do we do about this? What is our response to this, right? Do we have a thing that's called do we have a thing that's called freedom of speech, right? Is that thing that now not valued by a certain country? So are we gonna like let that country decide for us what we want? This is something that is governing bodies inside the US will have to kind of think about and pass something official on, because you can't just have fucking people get extradited just because one country is losing their shit. This is a very simple breakdown of the matter. So that's just my opinion on it, and nothing against the British. However, I do have something against the overreach in terms of power. So yeah. Oh, by the way, George Soros turns 94 today. That motherfucker's been around forever.
Yeah, ancient.
Oh my god. Dorsey's ghost still haunts ex-left-leaning media, hails ex-right-wing. What? What? That's some bullshit. What kind of nonsense is this? It's kind of funny. All the left-leaning accounts are complaining about the fact that they aren't getting any reach, and all the far right-leaning accounts also complain that they aren't getting any reach. So how is it that both of these guys are somehow simultaneously censored more than the other, even though they both have the same issues? Probably because you've deviated so far in either direction that nobody wants to join you along the way, and that you've essentially created a niche for yourself in these various configurations, such that nobody wants to be there with you at all. Because who wants to join you in this endless, this endless stream of complaints?
Yeah, it's like victimhood mentality.
We could even say, so let's take two graphic examples. You take the people who are like far rightists, who like constantly write stuff about Donald Trump, as in say, take certain accounts that basically make an entire existence out of that, and just write about everything Donald Trump. Say, are you voting for this guy? You're not voting for this guy. Here's why you should vote for this guy. Here's why you shouldn't vote for the other guy. Here's why you should always vote for this guy. Here's what this guy did. Like, it almost, I think, to an obsession. Now, of course, I'm not going to criticize that. I think you can do whatever you want, and you should do whatever you want. But then, of course, expect there to be certain outcomes. The same thing, of course, that applies to someone who's like on the right. Imagine someone like the Krasnosteins who are like constantly trolling everyone's comment sections if they're leaning in a particular direction just for the engagement, and they just like lean very far in that direction. Right? Both of those things, I personally would not want to really engage with because it's just boring. It doesn't make any sense for me personally. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would I engage with this stuff? I don't understand that. So you have like. The further I think you deviate in any direction, especially like this, the more you will lose an audience and interest, because it is obvious that you yourself are now no more than just a supporter for whatever side that you have. Irrationally so, as a matter of fact. The rational supporters are the ones who are at the center, the ones who get the most engagement, by default, because that's simply how it works. But, what can you do? What can you do about that? Not very much, unfortunately. So now, basically, because they've lost most of their engagement as a result of, going too far in either direction, they now experience a downturn, an engagement. So it's like, okay, cool, you're not being censored, you've censored yourself. As simple as that. And it's interesting because but what I'm saying is what's happening constantly, every single time somebody leans in any direction, because then you have to like conform to that echo chamber. So say for instance you start supporting a very particular direction more and more, then you get pushed in that niche, but you also get pushed out of the existing one that you're in, especially when you are trying to basically appeal to more centrist-based audience, which I think, say for instance, for certain people like the like libs of TikTok, for instance, they would probably want to appeal to more than just their own echo chamber of people who are right-leaning, but people are also on the left, because they'd want to have other people see this as well. It's like, hey, do you know what's going on? Do you know what's happening here in this direction? I think that's something that they would want themselves. So the more they would actually say, kind of voice in favor of a particular direction, the more they'd be hurting themselves. So you could like optimize that, I guess, out of the algorithm a little bit more, which I think you should, because the niche filtering is a little bit difficult, especially for people engaging with your stuff. I think if people are quite heavily engaged with your stuff, sure, they'll see more of it, but the trend itself dies down quite heavily. Like, people have to be actually obsessed with your profile itself, in a sense, to a certain degree, to actually come back to it without having to rely upon the For You, right? That's why I encourage everyone to turn notifications on, because if you rely on the For You, there's like a 20% chance that you'll see one of my posts. So I mean, sure, imagine if I say, put out a post every now and then, you'll see like one of my posts that I put out in like a day, even though I put out like 10 to 20, right? That's an obvious problem. So then you layer it out in hours and everything kind of works this way, but then that has its own issue. This is also why my engagement is up, by the way, because I actually am posting not only centrist, but I'm also posting more frequently, but within a certain period of time, understanding exactly how that all works. So that's a bit of a side aspect that I think people would want to consider. Oh man, I'm crazy. I can't believe I'm functioning like this off of just 1 hour of sleep. I only slept for like 1 hour. So
Did you fall asleep or just a nap?
I took a quick nap for like an hour.
Did you dip or just kind of?
No, I just decided I'm just gonna crash for like an hour. Did that, came back in, and then. What is this? I realized. Man, fucking Donald Trump is just posting like a madman right now. He's like continually posting and posting and posting and posting. He just posted one more thing just now, 5 minutes ago. It was like almost an hour ago, an hour before that, 2 hours before that, 1 hour before that. Jesus Christ, man, this guy's been off the hook. His engagement is also very, very good. Like 13 million impressions and all of this stuff. That's crazy. 13 million impressions, fucking 100 to 200,000 likes on his stuff. For stuff that's barely even like a day old. Can you imagine what it looks like after a day? Wow. So he's like very actively campaigning, but he's also trying to basically take a lot of engagement that exists here on platform to off platform, because you can see that some of his posts actually contain links within it. So this is kind of like a negative thing that I see personally, but I don't think has too much of a. I don't think it's too much of something that people need to be concerned about. That's right. Yeah, it could be annoying, but it is fine. What else do we have? Oh, that's nice. God, I can feel the energy inside of me. It's great. It's coming all back. It's all coming back to me now. Yeah. I'll probably get some people in as well, so if people have like what's the... Is the debate still going? Oh wow. Testing Spaces is happening right now. The people in charge of Spaces are testing again. Well, there's a space going right now. It has like 209,000 people connected to it. Those are all basically just test accounts. But that's happening while we're speaking. I think the weird-ass Trump debate is still going, where people are debating about policy. It's kind of funny. You can see the cards of many players here on the platform, in that they will only talk about policy now. They could have spoken about policy in Spaces like the way they are doing right now at any other time, literally at any time before this event. But it just seems that they were just waiting for an event like this, so the next level amounts of engagement would be there, right? So because they don't want to show up every day, because they're lazy, right? They would show up only when there is the actual opportunity to earn the engagement, then they'll show up, right? So that's why I see these kinds of spaces now. Even though, technically speaking, spaces like these, I mean, the debate of whether or not policy is good or not has already been had in many different ways. It's just not being rehashed. There's nothing of actual original content that's being like voiced right now. So it's just a rehash of everything that's already happened. Debates around policy, this garbage idea of the rich should pay more in terms of taxes. I'm like, what is that supposed to say? The rich should pay their fair share? Excuse me, they already are. And the people who aren't, the rich who aren't, those are the ones who won't get taxed anyway by your weird-ass schemes. Actually, as a matter of fact, the people themselves, which will be the most disadvantaged by all of this, are kind of the people who are not even the richest, not even the most affluent, because the ones who have most of the money, they won't get taxed a fucking shit anyways, because they put all of their money into foundations or borrow against their own money. So it's like, how do you tax that? You can't, unless you legislate that out somehow. But there's literally zero way that that's going to happen. That's like saying we're going to get rid of the fucking Federal Reserve. Good luck. So, I don't understand what that's supposed to mean. Tax the rich to fair share? They already are taxed. And the people who you would want to tax, I guess, the people who you're making an insinuation towards who you want to tax, you can't tax because it just won't happen. And the stuff that you'd have to pass in order to make that happen is just absolutely barbaric towards them. And you'd get fucked in the ass. As any administration, doesn't matter whose side you're on, you will get fucked if you even dare try some bullshit like that. And I highly understand this. I really understand that. And besides, it's not about it's not about the lack of taxation. It's actually over-taxation at the moment that is causing a lot of problems. And I think most of all, to say, oh, we need more money for our stuff. Well, spend that money on less useless shit and potentially focus it more on America first, then everything would work out. And potentially also outsource, if you yourself as a government can't do it, to contractors who themselves use the money effectively. Because at the moment, I'm not fucking seeing that. If I see a small fucking unfinished stretch of high-speed railway that cost $11 billion, what the fuck is that? Are we supposed to have more taxes for this? Like, what is this? Where did that money actually go? Because there's no fucking way. There's absolutely no fucking way, right? That's an example. So you want to pull out the tax the rich card? What the fuck is this? What did you do with the $11 billion? Let's ask first. What did you do with the money? What did you get done with all the money that's been, spent? Where's all the debt coming from? Well, I ask this question, who are the contractors? Why the fuck does it cost so much? There are contractors who can do better for better pricing. Internet infrastructure, the garbage price on that is insane. You have a horse an inflated price for technology that's even more garbage than the thing that came before it. When you could just use something like Starlink for a mere fraction of the cost. And it would be profitable, right? But not, man. So this is not a taxation issue. It is a spending money on useless shit or spending too much money on stuff that could be costing a fraction as opposed to what it costs now. That's the issue of the money. It's not the taxation at all. It's the efficiency or the efficacy, rather, of how that money has been applied to solving existing issues. And I think most of us can agree that the way that has been done has been utterly ineffective. But that's just my opinion, right? That's just my opinion. You make up whatever you want about that. And I think you should, have a conversation. But still, when I hear the tax the rich buzzword, it's like that doesn't make any sense. And the irony of this, that I literally heard in a space a person talk about fucking abortion and how they're okay with it. Meanwhile, I'm hearing their fucking children in the background. I was like, what? This is a simulation. The moment she fucking talks about abortion and justifying it, and all of a sudden I hear the baby in the background go, like, wow. The fucking hypocrisy, dude. Holy shit. There's something about that needs to be kind of thought about in a sense. But yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
Okay, finally let Fibonacci up. What's up, bro?
I finally got in bed to pass out. Good job on the space.
Thanks, man. Hey, by the way, thank you for providing all the little updates and things. That was nice. Very helpful.
Pleasure. Making history here, man.
Cool. What do you usually do? I mean, I see your profile. There's so much activity on it. There's like stuff from May that you reposted and such, and stuff from April and shit. Like, what do you usually do? Like, what's your thing?
I leave you quietly in the corner while I make music all day.
You make music?
Yeah.
Is it metaphorical or actual?
I've been up for 12 hours.
Jesus Christ.
But I was up through all of your naps and everything. I wanted to say a couple things about Bitcoin, but I won't go there. Don't worry. You were ranting off about the ending the Fed and laughing about it, but I think we might get there one day.
Perhaps one day, but I don't think that environment exists at the moment. It's way too strong, and there's way too much force that's fighting against it. I would rather say, again, instead of eradicating the Fed, I would say just coexist. I don't think there needs to be an actual eradication itself. It doesn't need to happen. I think that's completely unnecessary. I think that's also a realistic goal to have. I think that kind of a coexistence is possible, and eventually, like, imagine if one system is more effective than the other, then there is a shift itself, because if the control currency no longer has any control because it's devalued into nothing, then what's the power again? There you go.
The unit of account needs to change.
Wait, what?
Not the currency. The unit of account needs to change. Nixon took us off the gold standard in 71.
Fuck this. Yeah, I agree. There should be gold standard once more. Potentially activate something that's digital, like Bitcoin, would be quite nice, because natural resource like gold, while it is cool to have that, I think something like Bitcoin is potentially a bit better, because it is guaranteed to go up. Well, not always guaranteed to go up, because there's so much volatility at the moment, but over time, I think that volatility will largely stabilize and take on a trajectory that is reminiscent of actual gold. So that's just my opinion on Bitcoin.
Almost right. Well, it's programmed. It's programmed to go up in dollar terms because the value
Well, yes, of course.
Yep.
I know. Right.
It's the only thing that humans know for a fact that won't change, which is pretty fucking crazy.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry, man. I 100% understand the whole aspect of Bitcoin. I was in the Bitcoin scene for quite a while, understanding how all that works, just to kind of get a grip as to what the justification for its existence is. Outside, of course, all the mysticism, and utility-wise, I would largely agree with a lot of the assessments. So, yeah. But again, like I said, I don't think there's an actual ending of the Fed event that needs to exist in order for there to be Bitcoin integrated into our lives more than it already has. I think that kind of just happens on its own. Potentially one day there might be a standard backing if, more value of dollar go to shit. But I just don't see that happening at the moment. I'd rather say that the value of the dollar itself will go to shit and then be replaced by something like a CBDC long before it would be at all replaced by something like BTC, and then who knows what that's going to look like.
Well, interestingly, every time that has ever happened in history, hyperinflation's happened, and the people just went to whatever money was the best and fairest for everyone. But unfortunately, we've had governments controlling which currency that was for 200 years of the German mark and the Great Britain pound, and now the dollar. Now, obviously going to shit. I mean, anyone with half of a brain can see the banks are failing. And Sam Bankman-Fried was like the last little, oh my god, you guys are fucking robbing all of us.
I mean, look, I understand, but still, I would say there is, like what you just mentioned, there will be a currency that's controlled to replace it, which would just then be another thing that the government itself created, which isn't that. And I think we'll have, like, as a commodity trading thing, Bitcoin still, right?
Why would
I
we
think it will
even
just be
need
an
a
adjacent
government?
value thing.
Why would we even need a government in that case? I mean, why do we? You were going back to Iran right now. Why would we pay taxes? They can just print.
Well, I mean, I think, true, but I think government itself is actually quite useful if it actually operates in the form of what it actually is, which is a company. If you imagine that a government is actually a corporation, then things would. If you imagine that a government itself is actually a corporation, and if it were to actually truly operate as a corporation with the interest of making profit that serves the population, then things would actually work. But it doesn't do this at the moment because actually the government itself is a servant that is scary to the person who's to be served.
Well, what if we remove the government from the equation? Since humans never really needed government, and since the creation of the federal
disagree.
state, well, okay, a religion maybe to kind of control our crazy desires, but
Religion will always work until the moment it does not. There will always be someone who's there will always be.
But let's not go there because that's about as taboo as we can get. But the money's broken. The money is broken.
Not really, we can all agree that money is broken, but still, I would say that you can't entirely get rid of government because it's actually kind of useful still. It just needs to be refined in a way that it is more useful than it currently actually is, which is where the problem actually lies, in my opinion.
They have too much power, and power corrupts.
No, I don't think power corrupts at all. I think power just accentuates what's already there. Power does not corrupt, absolutely. I fundamentally disagree with that. It's just something that attracts the easily corruptible. That makes more sense to me, personally. Well, people are already corrupted, and they just accentuate what already is there. So if you have flaws within your being, you're easily tempted. If you have more ability, all of this, your good parts, and of course your bad parts, maybe even the flaws themselves that you've never been aware of because they've been so small and you've been so small, these things become accentuated with whatever you have already had. So that corruption and those flaws already there, they're just made bigger now to the point that they actually have effect. And that's what power does. It does not corrupt. It just enhances you. So if you're a piece of shit somewhere, then you will be a piece of shit in a lot of other places because now that's kind of bigger.
I agree. But would you say that money corrupts then?
No. Money does not corrupt. At all.
Mm-hmm.
Money itself corrupts itself if some people take control of it who themselves have a bad vision for what money is supposed to be and kind of use it as a tool for disruption, then that just reflects the intent of the control and not the actual nature of money. Money itself is actually something that's purely kind of cool, right?
What is the nature of money? What is money for?
The database for resource allocation, right? That's all that it's for. And of course, somebody takes a database under control and does some things with it that devalues this database and its effectiveness at, distributing resources, and of course you devalue the currency, which is what brings inflation and so on and so forth.
Okay, but you just described the fiat system. Money is a store of value, and money is a medium of exchange. Money was never meant to be paper.
Well, yeah, that's actually not entirely true. The money itself, paper, is brought out because everybody wants to walk around a lot of gold. Now, of course, you've separated now the thing that gives money its value, which is the gold itself, So now it's like you hold this piece of paper and it's a less valuable promise that depreciates over time. You're just holding, it's a contract. All dollar bills, everything that you've ever held in your hand that is currency, that is just a fucking contract at the end of the day, right? It is one that you have in your hand for a promise of utility, and you say, fuck this, I'm gonna get rid of this so I can have actual utility, right? The promise of utility is worth
to be
less
bearer.
than the utility itself. Always.
It used to be a bearer instrument. It used to be redeemable in gold, and it's not anymore.
Yes. And that's why money is going to shit, in this case, to fiat, right? So if we were to create backing for it once again, then it would actually be better to the promise.
Then we would have to go back to gold standard, but the gold industry is hijacked and has been for however long we've had the gold industry.
Yes.
So we need
That's
something
why,
that's
for Bitcoin exists, but then again, whatever that is. And potentially, if you want to have like a transactional currency, of course, you have something like Doge that could act as that, which I think is
We already
actually
have one. We already have
that.
the digital dollar. We already have every digital fiat currency in the world. We just need something digital that nobody can change and nobody can fuck with and nobody can turn off. And
Yes.
we have it.
That is Doge.
And now we
So
need
Bitcoin and
education.
Doge.
Doge for sure. And
Yeah. They're just transactional. Bitcoin is the value source.
Sorry,
Right?
interrupt. Isn't it pronounced Elon?
No.
Well,
You can call whatever you want to call. Elon is the average preferred term, I believe. Average
my name is
simply
Fibonacci, not Fibonacci. You know, so I just want people to pronounce the name right.
Sure.
Just a question. All right, what else?
I know there's really not much else. We're just having a discussion here. I really break out into the fiat discussion. I mean, I've had this conversation many times with many people in various configurations. So I mean, I could have heard it all.
Me too, man. And then I came to the conclusion that there is no second best.
I mean,
It fixes
There's no
everything.
doubt, but if
Money
I
a
suppose
problem
that-
that can't be fixed with money.